Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to try and demystify digital learning. It's a world that's absolutely jam-packed with buzzwords and some really big promises. But what does it all actually mean for students and for teachers on the ground? Well, let's dive in and find out.
You've heard it a million times, right? From policymakers, from school leaders, from parents. Everybody's talking about the need for 21st century skills, or digital skills. It's all about getting our kids ready for the future. And hey, it sounds great. It sounds essential.
But here's the catch. What do those phrases actually mean? So often, they just get tossed around without anyone really defining them. They've kind of become these big, empty buckets that can mean anything to anyone, which sometimes means they don't mean much at all. So how do we get past the buzzwords and into what really matters? And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the issue. There's a huge difference between just using digital tools and truly thinking digitally. See, using a tool is about the what and the how. It's a mechanical skill. But thinking digitally, that's a whole other level. It's about asking the critical questions. Why are we using this tool? When is it appropriate? And who is it for? So to really wrap our heads around this, we need to move past that simple idea of skills. We need to start with something much bigger, something more foundational. And that big foundational concept, it's called digital competence. Now, this isn't just about knowing which buttons to press. It's a much more complete picture. It's about being confident, sure, but also being critical and responsible every single time you use technology, whether that's in a classroom, at your job, or just being an active member of society. You see, real confidence, it's not just one thing. It actually stands on three pillars. First, you need the practical skills to actually use the tech. Then, you need the knowledge to understand the context behind it. And maybe most importantly, you need the right attitudes. Things like being critical of the information you find and being responsible with your own digital footprint. Okay, so now that we've got that idea of competence down, we can get a little more specific and make a really important distinction. And this is where we get into digital literacy. Honestly, the best way to think about this is as the modern-day version of just being able to read and write. It's that functional ability to use the basic tools of our world. Office software, web browsers, search engines. It's the hands-on, practical piece of the puzzle. I love this example because it just makes it so crystal clear. Look, pretty much anyone can learn the skill of downloading an image. Click, save, done. But literacy is understanding all the responsibilities that come with that simple action. Do I have the right to use this? Who created it? And how do I give them credit? And how do I make sure a person with a visual impairment can understand what this image is? That's the jump from just being a user to being a truly literate digital citizen. And this really shows you how much the whole idea of literacy has shifted. It used to be a pretty passive thing. You'd find information in a book, you'd take some notes, and you'd create something static, like a paper report. But now, it's incredibly active. We don't just find information anymore, we have to constantly vet it. We don't just take notes, we curate content. And we're not just making static documents, we're building dynamic, living, multimedia assets. It's a whole new ballgame. All right, so that's the theory, right? But what does this actually look like when the rubber meets the road in a real classroom? Let's take a look at a few examples. So here are three common ways tech shows up in schools. And you'll notice each one has a really clear benefit, but also a pretty big risk. Take the flipped classroom, for instance. The idea is amazing. Use class time for deep, collaborative work instead of lectures. But here's the catch. It completely falls apart if students don't or can't watch and understand the material before they come to class. It just goes to show you that technology is never, ever a simple magic bullet. And that same tension, that push and pull between the good and the bad, it really scales up when we look at the big picture of what education technology can and can't do. I mean, the promises are huge, right? The idea that we can make learning more exciting and engaging, that we can let every single student learn at a pace that's right for them, that's incredible. And the potential for instant feedback for both students and teachers could completely change how we learn. And it's not just hype. Students get it. The data is pretty clear. A huge majority, we're talking 9 out of 10 students, feel that the tech they use in the classroom is actually helping prepare them for what comes next. They see the value firsthand. But then you have the reality check. And the challenges are just as real. From this simple fact that a phone can be a massive distraction,
to the bigger problem of schools just buying a bunch of hardware without a plan, or spending a fortune on devices that are basically useless because the Wi-Fi's terrible. The road to getting this right is full of potholes. So this all leads to a really crucial point. The technology itself, it's not the solution. The most important part of making any of this work is, and frankly always has been, the teacher in the room. You see, the real solution isn't about which fancy new gadget you buy. The real transformation, the real magic, happens when we start focusing on the how and the why. How does this tool actually lead to deeper learning? Why are we choosing this specific app for this specific lesson? It all has to start with the learning, not the tech. One of the best ways to think about this is a framework called the SAMR model. Think of it like climbing a ladder. At the very bottom, you have substitution. That's just a direct swap, like typing a report instead of handwriting it. No real change. As you climb, you get to augmentation, where the tech adds a small improvement. But the really exciting stuff is at the top: modification and redefinition. That's where technology lets you totally redesign a task and create learning experiences that just weren't possible before. And that just brings us right back to this fundamental truth. You can have the most expensive, most advanced technology in the entire world, but at the end of the day, it's only as good as the teacher who's guiding students on how to use it thoughtfully and creatively. You know, there's a lot of chatter out there, a lot of fear even, about AI coming in and replacing human teachers. But everything we're seeing suggests that's completely the wrong way to look at the problem. The real and, frankly, much more exciting future of AI in education isn't about replacing teachers at all. It's about empowering them. It's about building smart tools that can help them become super teachers, tools that handle the boring stuff, give instant insights, and free up educators to do what only humans can do: inspire, mentor, and connect with their students. It's about augmenting our best teachers, not automating them away. So, I want to leave you with this final, really important question. As all this technology gets more and more powerful, how do we make sure that we're building not just skilled digital users, but thoughtful, critical, and responsible digital citizens? Because the future of learning really does depend on how we answer that. Thanks for joining me.